Hey, everyone, and welcome to our quarterly conversation leading from the front. And today, oh man, we've got quite the conversation today. And I will tell you, I want to talk about our sponsors. So fantastic to have Maono. It means vision in Swahili. Those are the guys that have given us all of our fantastic podcast equipment. I love the Monocaster. It is fantastic. And I really appreciate how like their customer service, the quality of all of the gear from their mics to the pads to we've got an arm coming and some equipment that we can use in the future in January all the way through April. We'll be out on the road doing stuff and we'll be able to record that from our phones and cameras. So really love them. Mayono. So check them out. Guiding Brilliant Writers Publishing. That is Nick and Jai Galindo. Uh, Absolutely can't say enough about Nick and all the work that she's doing. I just picked up the latest book and that anthology that she just released. She's doing the TK cookbook. She's got another book coming out in January. That's an anthology as well. Just all kinds of great stuff that she has going on. So check her out. HR consultations. Those are my guys that our little group of HR fractional dudes that do everything in the social good world. If you are a foundation, a B Corp, nonprofit, we are for you. Also, our merch page, that is Tisha and Ginger. Thank you. They make the great t-shirts for us. We love them to death. If you've seen Nick and her t-shirts and her gear and her all the stuff that she has, that's from our merch page as well. But without any further ado, let's talk about the ladies on the screen here. So, Tiffany Castano, CEO and founder of Sepher, cultivating the evolution of professional HR. She's also one of our partners. Love her dearly. Desiree Goldie, the owner and founder of Do Better Consulting. She is a 20 plus year executive in the HR and recruiting space. She's also the co-host of Talentless podcast with Ashley King. I absolutely love that podcast. So I'm a big fan. And she is our new impact officer on our board of directors. So we're happy to have her aboard. Dr. Anne Marie Risto, the founder of Systematic Equity Edits. She is also one of our partners. Love her dearly. I got to be part of a an early on beta test that she was doing. I failed miserably, and it taught me a lot about some of my gaps and biases. So it was great to see. Kylie Van Leeuwen, the founder and CEO of Elevated Coaching and Consulting Global. She has a string of awards that she, especially recently, it's like, good grief. I can't keep up. It's like every time I turn around, there's a post about another award that she's won. She does some great work with an organization called Glow, and she's also our board president. We are honored to have all of these ladies here together. And I guess I should say my name is Jason Forehand. If you don't know, I am the founder of HR Consultations, which I mentioned earlier, and HR for You Incorporated. That started in 2022. We are all about breaking the cycles of poverty, homelessness, and food insecurity. And our biggest program is called Transformation Kitchen. So we're trying to finalize our second this year in New York. We opened one in June with Rio de Sol in Matagalpa, Nicaragua. I spent 21 days on the ground living with the family there, learning that my Spanish is not quite as good as I thought it was, and just having a blast with that group. They were absolutely fantastic. So, love them to death. And so, we are here today to talk about purpose and how it can drive performance within the workforce. Why does it matter? And I'm going to start out with something. I did some digging here. One of the things that really, like, I was like, wow. 83% of consumers say that companies should actively support social or environmental issues. 64% of millennials say that they won't even take a job if they don't find that people or the company is purpose driven. So I want to start there, and we'll start with Dr. Anne Marie Risto. Comments on that, and we'll just start from here.
Love you bringing in the stats and starting with it. Thank you for that. So I think it also, this is just I think, I don't have stats to support it tonight, but I will get you some. It definitely is this, for me, a healthier work environment when you are service oriented and your people are service oriented. And I do believe in the well-being of every individual. It's like a evening the playing field, right? It brings people together, but it also helps people bring out in people things that they don't realize may be that areas that they're short-sighted in. And it offers a very natural way for people to grow and improve in how they interact with each other and become more productive than in the workplace, right? So it's a win-win. And I stepped into an environment where it hadn't been established. And so it's been really exciting seeing people come along now into recommending different services and opportunities that we can do to meet the community. You know, I work in a community college, and it was very much us taking from them and what we needed. And it's so exciting to be able to give back and have them see that mutual benefit. And so I think it's so important. And I'm glad that that's a stat that you started with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised. I was surprised that it was that high, and I was surprised that they called out millennials in particular, but because there's so many generations in the workforce right now. As a boomer and as a person who's that's getting ready to hit 61, and my wife and I both are in that. Sorry, Jody, I'm calling you out. But, we I can say that, man, I see the differences, I see the changes, but for me, it's like, I love that. I love that everybody is purpose driven and that they care about it.
Yeah, well, and with the millennials, I've done some focus groups when I was beta testing the assessment for looking at people's blind sides, if you will, blind spots for how they approach diversity and inclusion. And when I was working with the millennials, they were so like, it wasn't I'll get around to this at the end of the focus group. It was, they started with, oh no, I won't even go in the door, or I'll decline the interview, or you won't see my donations going in that direction. If they really research what they're investing in, and whether you agree with what they're passionate about or not, it is a mindset that I look at the generation before, right, which would be me, like maybe before,
Yeah.
and the work that we did in raising people in our society now that are that passionate. That's definitely a positive for our millennials and the way that they're approaching service.
I love that. I'm gonna pull Desiree in here now to the hot seat and say, "Hey, same stat.
Yeah.
I would love to get your feedback on
Yeah, I
how
mean, I work
you
in
feel
talent
about."
every day,
Yeah,
Jason, as you know. This is like my life breath every day is like how we talk about how people are seeing the talent world. And what I want to say is millennials, yes, but you have to also look at I think we have 5 generations right now in the workforce. That's unheard of, right? I mean, I'm a boomer, just so everybody knows. And then you go behind that, and you get to millennials, and you get to the next one, and you get to the next one, right? We're in a crazy time, and what I can say is, past boomer, they're unwilling to accept bad culture. They're unwilling to accept people over profits. That's what we're talking about right now,
yeah,
right? If everything about you as a company is making sure that you have profit and they're coming in to do revenue, they're like, bye. I
Yeah.
have people that won't even take an interview for that. And then, like Dr. Anne Marie Risto said, like they're not even accepting the interview. They're like, I'm not even doing that. I won't sign up. I won't do it. And by the way, even if we get to offer, because I've gotten them to offer, and if the culture doesn't make sense to them, they're like, bye. I do not want this in my life. If it doesn't, if you want me to work 100 hours, not going to do it. If you want me to, you know, not be hybrid, maybe, because I think remote and hybrid is really at that point, they're not going to do it. If you don't have the benefits you need to support them in their lives, not going to do it. And by the way, I want to go back to this and say that comp is everything. I know that people think people should work for free. That's not how the world works.
So,
And so please pay people what they're worth.
yeah.
Please pay people what they're worth. Because when they sign up and they get that offer, if you're not upfront about it, and if you don't get them to the offer that they really need to see, they're going to deny that offer. It happens so much, even in this horrible job market. We have a horrible job market right now, people. Like I've never seen anything like it, even pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I think pandemic was actually better than this. This is a horrible job market, but millennials are not willing to accept it. They're like, I'm just going to go do something else or be an entrepreneur or do freelance or do all of these other things. They're just unwilling to sign up for these things. And so when we talk about people over profit, we need to always be talking about people all the time, right? What is your organization doing to make sure that people are cared for, people are embraced? What are you doing for them? And it can mean more than just benefits and a little other things. Maybe it's the culture you have. Maybe it's employee engagement. Maybe it's wellness, right? Maybe it's all of those little pieces. I was recently in an organization that had a wellness moment. We got up every morning and did exercises, right? That was something.
Yeah.
So if you think about those things and you think about how you bring people to the table, you need to be thinking about that all the time. People over profits. Profits get you. You will be able to have profits if you focus on people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Uh,
Full
Look,
stop.
44% of workers in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, United States, don't make enough to put food on their table. They don't make enough to take care of their own families. There's something wrong with that stat. There's something inherently really wrong about that. And I mean, over and over again, I've got two more. I want to get to Tiffany and Kylie about this same thing, and I've got a whole boatload of stuff that we have to cover here, and a limited amount of time to do it. But this is our quarterly event, so I'm so excited to see you guys. But dadgum, I want to come back to this because this was one of the stats. I have a slightly different one, Charles, but it really basically says the same thing. It, Mine is a little bit higher than the one you have because it's from a different organization. But dadgum, I mean, it is so true when people feel like that they are poured into and that they feel seen, heard, valued. They feel like the company has a purpose. They're aligned with that purpose. The every single stat, retention, how they show up, the amount of sick days, I mean, productivity, the all of it is so fantastic. This was a great comment, and I really appreciate it, Charles. But I Tiffany, uh, come up and give us your thoughts on this. And again, the stat is 83% of consumers say that companies should actively support social or environmental issues, and 64% of millennials won't take a job if the company lacks a strong purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. And really the other piece of this is creating a foundation of trust. And a lot of times what we see is very mission forward organizations. We expect, well, as we're talking about compensation and living wages, we expect people to take a lower wage that may not be livable, or to, fight for these causes that are going to make our world more livable, and we're not giving them a wage. So there are things that are misaligned. So if we're saying one thing, that's, it should match what we're doing. And I will always talk about the mission, vision, and values of an organization, because so often what people say is misaligned to what they're actually doing. So when we talked about, Desiree mentioned, I'm not going to take this job if it doesn't align with my values. We are in a time where people's values are holding stronger than the dollar. Even in, I wholly agree, Desiree, in this environment where people try to throw more money at people. It's why when you try to give people money when they've made the decision to leave, why they choose to still exit the
It's
organization.
too late.
It's
It's
too
too
late.
late.
You haven't taken care.
Too
Now I have songs going on in my head. So
So
you haven't taken care of them. And also from the perspective of service, I love seeing organizations that are offering volunteer hours paid. Pro tip, please
yes,
do that. Please keep doing it. But invite the employee voice into that too, because what I've also seen is these, hey, we're a great organization. We've pasted up our corporate social responsibility. We give people time off to volunteer, but have you also invited their voice into that process when we think about equity, when we think about the different perspectives that your team brings, to be able to say, okay, let's understand, maybe there's a different perspective. Maybe there's an organization out there that we haven't heard about. But so much, the free things are really the things that often get missed and undervalued when we look at this culture. And frankly, so now that since we're saying things, I'm Gen X, and I feel like we are this hybrid between different generations. But it is so true that people are not just going to put up with anything. And gone are the days that I had to suffer through workplaces, and I think that we all have to some degree, of just, sit in your lane, be quiet, don't disrupt
put your head
anything.
down.
When we talk about people over profit, you don't get to innovation, you don't get to creativity, you don't get to being the competitor or employer of choice without your people. And yes, we have to make money to do that. So, and hopefully we're using that for good, right? To pour into professional development, to allow them to be out in community from a true service mindset versus telling the community what they need, right? We have a responsibility as employers to make that match the mission, vision, and values, and to not come at people with our solutions, right? But to be truly in community. And that is what the employees of today want. So I guess that's what I would add there too.
Yeah, and I'm cheering Tom Shin, who's it's too late. I love stay interviews.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure all of you have heard about this, but where you're it's part of your one-on-one process. It's part of your pouring into people and communicating and building trust and all that. But you have I'm going to meet with you. Maybe it's once a quarter, and we're gonna have a stay interview where it's like, hey, what do you like, what you don't like, what are we doing well, what we're not doing well, how can we do better for you, what tools do you need so that you can learn and you can do your job and you feel seen and valued and heard. How I I apply every time I hear a company that's doing that, I'm just like, yes, you at least understand and are doing the work. So
Best practice, pro tip.
pro tip,
Yeah.
pro tip.
We're full of them.
Kylie, you're up.
It's not rocket science, right? What we're talking about is real. This is not rocket science. This is all about just basic human connection. right? I was talking to an organisation a couple of weeks ago about how they engaged their team, and it was a new team. They just built a brand new team, and they were talking about all the compliance and all the admin and all the other things that went along with, the jobs and the program that this particular team was delivering. And they said, "What's the priority for us, Kylie?" And I said, "Human connection. That's your one job today, is to connect with your team in a meaningful way, an intentional way, and that will filter down to your clients." And my team and I talk a lot about leading with a commercial mind and a social heart. And that's the idea that we don't have to choose between margins and meaning, or between performance and people and purpose. And when we get that balance right, which isn't difficult, business outcomes are so much stronger. And like you were all saying, the retention of our staff and our employee engagement and their well-being is much stronger. And if we have happy, happy, engaged staff, then there is that impact on our bottom line, that positive impact on our bottom line, because it filters through to our clients, and we get those. If we're working in a service industry, we have those outcomes for our clients and participants and whoever it is that we serve. So I'm really a big believer in, if we have that privilege of leading organisations that generate revenue and employ people and influence communities, and hopefully we all do, that we also carry that responsibility for the social footprint of that power. And I think that social impact, what I call social impact now, it's now part of our social license to operate. And more I'm seeing that communities and regulators and government and funders and customers are all asking the same question, including particular groups of employees coming through, like millennials. They want to know, are you part of the solution? Or you're a part of the problem. And they want to know that their values and their purpose align with the organisation that they're working for.
Yeah, absolutely love that. I want a huge shout out. We've got a ton of people in the audience today. And I'm going to miss a whole bunch of people, but thank you to my wife, Jody. I got to start there. And thank you, Kennedy, man, Kenneth Dunner. You are the man. Savor the flavor, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you, Nick and Jai Galindo. We called you out earlier for what you're doing with Guiding Brilliant Writers. Love that. Jackie Halberg, I appreciate you. Angela, I appreciate you coming in. And Cicely and Tom and Stephen. Man, it's great to see you back on the platform in some of these. I know I've run into you a couple of times, I think, in the last few days. So love that. Charles, great to see you here. Appreciate your comments. And am I missing other people? Am I missing Tracy? Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Bill Bradford, thank you so much. And I think, and then Mike. Hey, Mike LeBlanc, thank you. I appreciate you coming in. We have a great crew and I love it. And I'm going to stay with Kylie, and I'm just going to start with another stat. So purpose drives performance. We've all kind of been hitting on it and talking about it. And this is outside the wellness piece of it, but it still involves wellness, because in your purpose, if your purpose is you're going to take care of people and you're going to drive profits through helping your people be the best that they can be, so that they will be more performative and you will be able to keep them for longer periods of time. Purpose driven organizations have a 30% higher innovation rate, which drives the performance from an investor side, and 40% higher employee retention. Employees that feel connected to purpose are 4.6 times more likely to be engaged. And when they're engaged, obviously, they are more productive. They take less sick days. They are active in the conversations. They have innovation. So they're helping you solve problems. So I want to start there, and we're going to go around the room as well. But there's a lot of things that we talk about as far as what purpose-driven profit means and how it impacts organizations. But I want to start with just some stats on, like, and all of us have talked about it a little bit, but I want to reframe it a little bit more and talk about that. Why is it so important? Why does it affect investors, and why do people look at companies from a financial standpoint in that way. So we'll start with Kylie and we'll work.
That's like 3 parts, that question.
I know. It's like a whole thing.
I think it boils down to the fact that our employees are human beings, and most human beings want to come to work and feel good. When people feel good, they're engaged. When they're engaged, they usually stay in that company, right? But I also think that doing good, or that purpose-driven, or those purpose-driven organizations, or those that identify as purpose-driven organizations, doing good is also a risk strategy, right? And when, like I was saying, when employees feel safe and respected and understood and valued, and then the ultimate is when they feel that sense of belonging and that attachment to an organization's mission and vision and values, then you typically have fewer critical incidents. You have less absenteeism, less turnover of your staff, typically fewer grievances, and a stronger brand when something inevitably goes wrong, right? Big or small. So I think that, to me, it's a no-brainer. I had this conversation day in and day out, like I'm sure the rest of the group here does, but I don't understand why, even if you're a corporate, you don't have to be a non-profit to be purpose-driven. And I think that people have that confusion, is that only charities and non-profits are purpose-driven. We do see some corporates that have their, corporate social responsibility and DEI policies. Maybe not so much in the States right now, but we certainly see that here in Australia still. And you see the spark that ignites with employees when they know that coming to work and being productive and doing their job every day contributes to the greater good. It feels good for people. And I don't think it's any more difficult to understand than that.
Right. Well, and the interesting thing is that unfortunately, not all nonprofits are driven by creating that purpose. Sometimes it's just, hey, we're going to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of hubris and ego, and there's a lot of this going on where it's a very top heavy type thing. Yeah. And a nonprofit is a business. It needs to be run as a business. That's why 67% of all nonprofits fail in the first 5 years, because they're not financially sound, because they have a great idea, but they don't understand all the other aspects. So I think that it's really astute that we talk about both those things. I want to pull Tiffany back in now, and we're going to the three things that we're talking about, but really, what does it boil down to for you when you're talking about the profit side and how it connects with people? I know you talked about it a little bit already.
Yeah, I appreciate this. And I just always love learning from all of you. And when we're thinking about this, we can and should put money behind people's professional development. I touched on that lightly. That is just non-negotiable these days. It's going to come up more in negotiations for when you're attracting talent. And also, we want to be responsible with that, but we have to understand that if people aren't connecting to that, if I'm constantly getting hurt at work, or I don't believe that my employer, when Kylie talked about risk, if I don't believe you're going to keep me safe at work, whether that's physical safety, psychological safety, my general health and well-being, including benefits, I think, that came up from Desiree earlier. We have to believe in that what is being told is not just a story for the marketing blurb, right? We have to believe that these are real stories. And if I'm being asked behind the scenes to do things that I know we're not actually living out. Jason, I love that you talked about nonprofit. So we have over 60% of our business is nonprofit. One of the things that I run up against a lot, so I love that you shared this, is that, well, we don't want to be corporate. We don't want to be, I'm not saying to have bureaucratic processes, but you need processes. If as a nonprofit, you're out there thinking that you don't want some of these policies and you don't want all of these things, those are the things that are going to keep your employees. That's how they stay safe. That is how they understand and connect with clarity to their roles, to how they grow with you or not, right? And I think that is a big myth that's out there, is that we can't do certain things or we can't behave in certain ways. We all have to make profit, even if
Yeah.
there's a different structure behind that, right? But I see people have such a struggle with that, and it doesn't mean that because we make profit we can't do good things with those dollars. That can go back into your employees, into the infrastructure, into things that are going to help them do their jobs, automation, right? Technology,
Yeah.
so that I don't have to struggle. And we also want to think about, what are the policies that we're talking about? Why are we still talking about dress codes that don't,
Oh,
if I'm
good grief.
comfortable, I don't know. I just don't know why. And I'm not saying they don't have their
Yeah.
place, but I am in shock and awe, especially in HR, when we're the ones who are often tasked with telling that person, you're dressed inappropriately today. And even as recently as the last 2 years, I heard someone talking about, well, this person interviewed or this person came to work and looked this way. Did you explore what they need, right? It's about, we talk about our responsibility as leaders in organizations. What if you're not paying me enough to come dressed a certain way? But owning that and being accountable as employers to what that looks like, there is so much more that shapes the employee experience beyond productivity. And they're not going to be productive if you're not pouring into them in the right ways, or if I can't function or my life is falling apart outside of work. How am I supposed to come here and do the best job? Or if you're not protecting me from a toxic client, right? Or you want the profit from that client, but you're not taking care of me. That's not going to get any of us innovation. And so
Right.
that's what I would add to the conversation.
I love that. And you made some great points. Yeah. We solely work, HR consultation solely works. And we made the change in 2020. And I saw Mike LeBlanc's comment about not doing pro bono. I did 900 hours of pro bono work from 2020 to 2021. And it's how we made the shift from going, we lost all our clients during the pandemic because we had all these small businesses that were for profit that we were working with, and they went away. And so we were like, man, we need to help people. We want to help people, and we want to figure out the best way to do this. And so literally I worked with a couple of different apps and started doing that. And then it got so big that I started doing it on my own. And then that led to us just changing the format to where we're just going to work for nonprofits. And Tiffany, I am not gonna lie. Sometimes I will belly up for an organization that's been around 5, 10, 15 years. And I'm looking at, man, you've got a 10-year-old policy and procedure manual. You got, your SOP is out the door. There is no, there's so many missing pieces and gaps and stuff that you should have, and there's so much infighting. And I'm like, look, you want to know where you need to start, it's internal. And obviously what we're talking about is not happening in this organization. So I've had to say no a couple times. Like, I'm not even passing this along to somebody else. I'm just going to say no. Like, good luck. But
No,
all
we
right.
will. No.
Yeah.
Just no. And no, I will not give my network to you either.
Just no. All right, Doctor, give us your take on this. I know we've been talking about this. We're going to do this last round robin and have Desiree come up next, and then we're going to just finish it out with everybody up here, and I'll throw some things at you about mental health.
Okay, so I've been taking a lot of notes. I have this mind map of
I
notes.
saw you in there.
Literally,
I knew what you were doing.
Because I don't have the memory capacity anymore. And so I'm like, oh, I got it. Oh, wait. So here we go on this journey. So purpose-driven performance. Like, I have been dedicating my work as of lately in the higher education, which is a service industry, right?
Yeah.
At the human capacity level. And with that, our profit is really our community improving, right? Making sure that we are providing an education that's relevant and that's sustainable for what society is going to ask of them to keep the community live and vibrant. And so that impacts our businesses in so many ways. And so then when I think about my lens always through accessibility, inclusion, and that sense of belonging, and how that is all coupled with well-being and ensuring that as an industry, that education itself is paying attention to its most valuable asset, which is its people. And when we do that, Nick mentioned in the comments about the unemployment rate with the millennials and Gen Zs. Some of that is actually attributed to taking a gap year, really connecting to what you want to do. And then that entrepreneurship spirit that they also have. I'm not saying all of it, but some of it is. And when I think about that and how that is the generation when our country just within a matter of days ago was experiencing the government shutdown, and the food sources were being cut off and we had to go into supplemental sources, right? That's the generation that was literally out there handing out meals and making sure that people were fed and taken care of, because we have 1 in 8 Americans who do not have a meal every day.
Yeah.
And that number is astounding to me for what our country has on offer. So that then connects to me with the, like, how we were an inchworm away from 38 million Americans missing their nutrition assistance, and 6.7 to 6.9 million, depending on which research you look at, because it was just about 7 million children, infants, and pregnant women that had to rely on food pantries. So in the education system and working with pre-service educators, I work with a lot of school districts, and that meant tapping into community food pantries that they had been contributing to. So what does it take at that human capacity piece? Tiffany, you nailed it when you talked about the professional development, because it is like human development, right? We focus so much, like in my field, it's on academics. In a business setting, it might be on work attire requirements, right? I believe that not just the millennials and Gen Zs, but our generation as well is really understanding that we need more when we're doing development and training. We need to make sure that it is relevant to the human beings that are doing the service that our business, for me, it's education, is providing. Because if we are adding another thing to their plate or another way of doing the thing, instead of looking at how can we support what they bring to the table and why we hired them in the first place, it's so important. I did some work with Anna Beaton with Human Solutions, and I might have said her last name wrong, and I apologize. It's the Failure Lab, and it's looking at your impact. How are you prepared to fail? How do you interact with failure? And how do you then maximize that? And I think in our workplaces, I know in our workplaces that giving our employees and the human capacity, that purpose-driven performance that we're desiring and know is so important, if we give them that opportunity to fail. And I remember, and it's been years now, but Google and Apple, that was their big thing, right? They gave about 20% of the workday was do what, try something, like work on something that you're passionate about, those passion projects. And it wasn't expected that every single project was going to be the next iPhone, right? But that's how the iPhone developed, like giving your brain, giving your people the time to do that. And you can't get those kinds of results if you're not taking care of your people. If you look at when I was in doing more leadership development heavily, it was looking at your theory of action. And you had to stop. It was like no statement can be even considered in this brainstorming if it's not taking full responsibility as a leader. So it had to stop being the people are, or they're doing this, or I need this to stop, and look at what are you doing as the leader? What's your theory of action? If I now do this, then this role will do this, and that will impact this role, and that will impact that profit. And for us, that's the improvement for the community and in our human capacity building.
I love that.
That was all my connections from what
Yep.
you all were saying.
All right, I'm gonna put Desiree up here on the hot seat, and then we'll.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know if I have anything to say anymore. But I'm going to say this: I work with a lot. I always have something to say. But I will say that a lot of my work is with startups and founders, and how they're trying to develop tech in this world that we live in, or healthcare tech and AI in this crazy world that we live in. And I always talk to them about the tech being separate from the people, right? Your tech could be amazing, right?
Yeah.
But you have to also develop the people developing the tech, right? Or supporting the tech, right? We're in a crazy time right now. AI is going to do something or do nothing. We don't know, right? It's taking over a little bit. But so, and when I talk to these founders, I talk about, what do you want your brand to be known for? What do you want them to say about you at the end of the day? Do you want them to say you had crazy AI and that's amazing? Or do you want them to say you did good in the world? Right? And you should be selling that to your people, right? If it's the I want to do good in the world thing, and sometimes it's not, by the way. Sometimes I get those answers and they're like, I just want the tech to be awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're not going to be aligned. But if they say, I want my people to know that they're doing good in the world, then you need to establish that brand and that social impact that makes sense, right? And then if you establish that brand, it becomes people over profit really quickly, right? If we could say that's how we want to establish what we're doing as a founder from series or seed or series A, and we establish that company going through, then we can have that through line all the way through, right? And so as we start to develop that brand, because I work a lot on brand, let's make sure it is people over profit. Let's make sure we're making sure that our people are cared for. Make sure that they understand the values of this company, and make sure that we're making sense for them and sticking to those values along the way. Because sometimes we get derailed because now we're going to IPO, right? Yeah. And now we're going here, and now we're going there. And we need to make sure that someone is, I always say, there's a funny thing about having a head of community and culture. And people think that's not a worthy job in an organization. I believe it's the most worthy job, right? Because it keeps people on task, right? Right? We're going to IPO, we're going from here to there, and we're going to make sure that everybody has that value system. We're going to make sure the benefits make through. We're going to make sure all of those things. We have the same talk track from leadership, because leadership gets derailed as well.
Yeah.
Right. We get these CEOs, they're just off. I'm like, what are you even talking about? This is not what we talked about in our last meeting, right?
Yep.
So they get totally off course. And so somebody needs to be keeping that through line. So I will say that, and I wrote a ton of notes, but I think Dr. Anne-Marie got most of mine. But I do want to say that brand, people, and profit, right? Those are connected items, right? And if you think about those things in all of your organization, how you're, even as an individual, my brand, how I think about people and how I think about profit, even as an individual, is super important. And we should take that through line to an organization. Jason, that's it for me.
Woo, man. We've hit on a whole bunch of stuff today, and we had a great audience as well. I want to talk about this because we mentioned the mental health and healthcare piece of this, and I saw Nick's comment earlier about the cost. Goodness gracious, the cost of healthcare. But this was something that the World Health Organization put out that I thought was really outstanding. For every dollar invested in mental health from an organization, it returns $4 in improved productivity and reduced absenteeism. Stress-related burnout costs businesses about $300 billion annually. Employees who feel cared for are 3.5 times more likely to be engaged. We talked about that a little bit. And wellness initiatives improve employee satisfaction by 42% and reduce sick days by 35%. So it just depends on where you get the stats from. Sometimes they're higher than that. I want to just open it up for anybody to talk during this. We've got, maybe 15 minutes left. I want to open it up for anybody and everybody to jump in, because we mentioned when we were going to be talking about this that we wanted to talk about it from a holistic standpoint. And that works for me on so many different levels, because everything that we do as an organization with Transformation Kitchen is all about, I think it's great that we feed people. I think it's fantastic. We have a need. We talk about that all the time. There's such a need in this country that it shouldn't be, but there's such a need that we've got to break cycles, though. And we've got to find a way that we can move beyond that. And so for me, that whole thing about how we create the community, how we make sure that people are well, how we're not patting ourselves on the back because we just had 20 people go through the program. But what are they doing 6 months, 2 years down the road? Are they incarcerated again? Are they back on drugs? Are they fighting with their addictions? Are they food insecure again? Have we really taught them how to fish and really develop a community for them? Are organizations in this conversation that we're having about people over profits and about purpose-driven profits, are organizations really understanding the value of creating an organization that pours into people in such a way that they are all the way holistically sound human beings? They feel every bit that, hey, I love going into work. I love my job. I love what I'm doing. It's aligned with who I am as a human being. We all know what it feels like when we're not. So I want to talk about the mental health aspects of that. I gave you some stats. Jump in wherever you see fit.
We need another hour, mate.
I know. That's a whole nother conversation.
Woo!
Jason, like,
Don't get me started.
Let me take it to a lighter side. Let me take it to a lighter side. Because you said something, Destiny. You said brand, people, and profit. And instantly I went to this crazy thing that I am hooked on Instagram. And I don't even go on social media that much. But there is this pet company called We Are Good Pets. Didn't even know the name of the company for a while. I just laughed my tail end off because they don't do marketing, but it's their marketing, right? It's their brand. They have these dogs, AI dogs, that have a podcast. And they talk about the life of the dog and all of these different interactions with their humans and different things that they do. And
that's awesome.
And it brings me such joy, right? I'm just like laughing so hard. And then I'm reading my morning articles and this article comes up and it's talking about this, we are good pets, and how it's the fastest
good.
growing voices in the pet industry. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the Instagram, and I had to go and look, and I noticed then the logo there. And I just thought, like, what an incredibly intelligent and thoughtful and really considerate to the times we're in approach to the marketing that they use, because it is not buy our products, right? Right now, Americans are tapped out. It is like developing this relationship with human beings, giving them joy and laughter. And then when you need pet supplies, you're most likely going to check them out, right?
You're going to remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to remember it.
So I think that kind of
Absolutely.
like definitely connects to our purpose-driven performance. And
Yeah, because if you're connecting the profit, right? That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about at the end of the day. We still want profit,
right.
right? But you have to connect the human to the profit,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
how do you do that, right? And it's getting really inspiring in some things like in Instagram, and I've seen some really great brands doing some really great things. The one thing I wonder is that internal, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're living internally? Because if it's not internal, that will evaporate immediately, right? So it has to be brand voice, internal, doing innovation, doing all these things. And to go to Chasen's point, even about mental health, how are you supporting those people that are struggling? How are you supporting those people that really can't find their way? How are you supporting the world? Never mind just your company and profit.
Right.
What are you doing for the world in general?
Right.
And I always find it funny when I was watching something the other day, and I think it was on LinkedIn, and some company put up that we donated 30% of our profits to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you guys are so annoying. Like that's annoying to me.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? So to me, that is not how you do it, right?
Right.
You should be doing it internally and focused. And if you're doing it, put it out in a real good marketing way. Like We Are Pets, I think you said it is.
Yeah.
Like, put it out in a different way. Don't put it on a LinkedIn ad that's sponsored.
Right.
Right. Like nobody wants to see that.
Right.
Like, so I just think there's so many ways to do this responsibly. And it's not that. And it's also
you
taking care of
mentioned
people.
the internal piece, right? That
Yeah.
like being able to see the inside. I just finished an incredible book, and it's called Unreasonable Hospitality. And it's by Will.
I read that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that
Great
is
book.
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yes.
It was about he went the different direction for those Michelin stars.
Yeah.
They had that goal, but he went the direction of the approach in the workplace and empowering the employee.
Yeah. Great book, by
Mhm.
the way. Anybody
That
in the
is.
please please read that book. It's amazing.
Definitely love that one. And I'm totally open for recommendations too, because I'm going to be doing a lot of driving over the holidays and traveling, so I need audiobooks to listen to.
I will send you some.
Thank you.
I just read like 4 books that are really, really strong. So
Good. Yeah, thank you. I love that. Yeah, because that one was
yeah, that one was
That's
top
great
notch.
yeah, I had the book and I had the audio book, and I was going back and forth.
So good.
Yeah, because just and learning the lessons, when they took it too far, learning the lesson that they were outstretching the capacity and pulling and knowing enough and caring enough to pull back, because it could have just been, we're going to keep going, or but it was amazing. Unreasonable Hospitality.
There we
Such
go.
a great book.
So there you go. It's a great book.
Yeah.
I have to say, so this is, we only have a little bit of time left, but I at the place where I was at the lowest in my personal life and my addiction. But I was at one of the most fantastic places I'd ever worked for. And this kid, this young, brash, chasing forehand dude had some pretty decent skills enough to get on with a guy like that. That's like, just like they're raving about this chef. He could care less. He could care less about the accolades. He could care less about the Michelin stars. He could care less about, he cared about two things. I want to put out the most awesome, consistent, high level food every single service. And I want the best people here. I mean, that get it, that live it, that love it. And that's the chef that poured into me at my lowest point when I missed Friday night service, Saturday night service, Sunday brunch, came in off of a bender where I didn't even know where I was. And he poured into me and was like, I see you, and I'm 10 years clean and sober myself. Someone paid it forward to me, and now I'm paying it forward to you. It is a different story. And the reason I say this is the very different story when people live what they preach. When it's not about advertising and marketing, but it's about like, this is what I think, what I feel, it exudes in every portion of my body. It's my messaging, it's my branding. You want to shine a light on the world, start shining a light on other people. You want to shine a light and have people understand how you feel about your organization. Shine a light consistently on other people and other organizations and talk about what they're doing. That to me is how you show up. That's how you make it purpose driven. And you forget about saying, look at this 30% that we gave. How about you spent that advertising dollars and you talked about that organization and made it about them, not about you. I'm just saying. Oh my goodness. We are out of time. What a great audience. I can't even keep up with the comments. I stopped now. I'm like, Kenneth Dunner. I believe you. Oh man, you kill me, brother. I am so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful for all the people being here. And I'm so thankful for these ladies. I am just a monkey with a mic, but these ladies light me up and keep me aligned, make me understand why I do the things I do. And I'm gonna try to finish these next couple minutes without getting emotional. But I am honored to be in the room with these ladies, and I am so blessed to have them in my life, not just as partners and people that are with our business, and they're friends. They're truly friends, and I love them dearly. Desiree Goldie, Tiffany Castano, Kylie Van Leeuwen, Dr. Anne-Marie Risto, you have been with us in our quarterly event, our quarterly live. We'll catch you in 2026. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. I really, really appreciate you. We'll catch you next time.